So what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and welcome everybody back to a brand new video, and actually welcome to the first update video of this recorded in my new house. You may or may not be able to tell by the difference in the audio of the mic quality, but my old house is a little more echoey, and it should be a lot better in here. So regardless, I am finally in my new house. We're back to making videos, and I appreciate you guys coming out. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a pretty big update that is going to be hitting PUBG very, very soon. Now, it's not quite on the test server, and usually when I make these videos, there is already everything available on the test server for you to play and try out, but this is actually going to be hitting the test servers on June 10th, and then it's going to be coming to live servers on June 17th. So it's still a little ways out, but you guys are going to be able to tell exactly what's going to happen in that next update on this video. And of course, as always, before we jump into it, guys, if you don't mind, leave a like rating on the video if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel if you're also brand new. We're getting really dangerously close to 300,000 subscribers, and the support has been awesome, so thank you all. But anyways, we got quite a lot to unpack for this update. So starting off, they say, for changes in this update, we focused on some survivability improvements to vehicles, a new explosive tool on the battlegrounds, some quality of life improvements when parachuting, and more. So a lot of that is going to be pretty comprehensive of all those topics. Now, one of the biggest things coming in this update is vehicles are getting a pretty big overhaul, and vehicles have been one of the most primitive functions or game mechanics in PUBG pretty much ever since it came out, and they have received their tweaks and buffs here and there, but they really haven't undergone any major technical changes, but that's actually going to be changing now. So originally in PUBG, we've always known vehicles to have a health bar, and then upon receiving damage, it will tick down, and then if you end up while still being in the car, while that health bar hits 0, it just instantly blows up. If you're in or around the vehicle, you're most likely going to die as well. But this is actually going to be getting changed because a lot of players have become frustrated with this as a mechanic, and because it's so easy just to shoot vehicles now, everybody's gotten so good at it. Shooting into vehicles now is no longer a problem as well. And also with the changes of the M249 and some of the bigger boy guns actually being world spawns, then this means vehicles are getting a little bit of a buff. Every car will now no longer explode instantly when hitting 0 HP. What will happen is your car will stop, the engine is going to catch on fire, and you've got a window of 5 seconds to move out of the way before it explodes. And this is actually a wonderful function if you ask me, because originally if you hit 0 HP in a vehicle for any reason whatsoever, it was more than likely the end of your game. Unless you had another squad mate that somehow didn't die or was in another vehicle, you were pretty much done for. But this allows you to, at least have some kind of chance at survivability. However, it still does punish you, just in a slightly different way, for letting your vehicle get to 0 HP. Let's say you're shooting someone else in a vehicle, and it's not going to instantly blow up on them, but let's say it's a squad, they all are going to have to jump out and scatter, and that still puts them at a severe disadvantage. So it's not like it takes away any incentive for you to shoot vehicles at all, but it also just avoids the frustrating deaths where you kind of really didn't deserve it. Now, there is a caveat to that. Vehicles still will instantly explode if they're hit by something like the red zone, which will deal, essentially an area of effect damage. Either that, a C4, a grenade, any sort of explosive will still blow it up automatically. But as far as bullets go and pretty much all other damage, then you're going to have that 5-second window where the engine catches on fire, and then you can scatter before it blows up. And again, if you're still around the vehicle and that happens, you still will die, but there's no more frustration with vehicles insta-exploding anymore. Now, there's also one big technical change to vehicles as well. There's going to be different hit boxes based on what the vehicle looks like. So I'll put this up as an example. The engine is now going to take the most amount of damage, and you'll be putting out the most DPS by hitting this spot. The body is about 75%, and the roof is about 50%. And so these hitboxes are going to fundamentally determine how you should go about shooting a vehicle, whether you want to take it down instantly or, spread it out over a slightly longer period of time. The choice is now yours, but you know that there's certain areas on vehicles that are more valuable. The glider, I believe, was actually the first one to do this. Shooting the smaller middle piece of the motor actually dealt the most damage, rather than if you just shot the wings or something. And this mechanic is now being applied to all vehicles in the game, which is really cool to see. And speaking of which, bow armor upgrades have now just got a 5 static damage reduction. So while boats aren't the most viable vehicle in the entire world, they're not going to get blown up nearly as easily as they have in the past. I'm not sure if that's going to make them more usable or anything, but it is important to know they're going to be a bit more tanky. One last thing to add on for vehicle damage multipliers, these are not going to apply to pretty much any of the bikes right now. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be looked into in the future, but as of now, a lot of the smaller vehicles are not going to have these damage multipliers, just the bigger ones and the more common, Dacia, UAZ, stuff like that. Also, I don't believe the BRDM is now going to be affected by this at the moment. Now, moving on, guys, I cannot believe I'm actually telling you this is being added to the game now. After all this time and this frustration and confusion, the C4 is here. The C4 is coming. coming and is one of the more interesting tools in the game. It's not like the sticky bomb in Kraken really at all. So the way the C4 is going to work is, of course, it's a new explosive tool that can be found in either the world spawns or even the crate spawns. Now, this has a 25-meter effective damage radius and can also penetrate through cover. So this means potentially around a wall, if a C4 is on the other side of like a rock or a building, you can actually get hit and take damage from that radius if you're within. And this is interesting because generally in PUBG, nothing really hits through walls, right? Like you can't get shot through. There's no bullet penetration really. There's no, explosive through walls in most cases, but this might not be the case anymore with the C4. Now, you also cannot manually detonate it. The way it works is it's going to start beeping and counting down from 16 seconds immediately after you throw it. You're going to have no control over a early detonation or stopping the detonation. Once it's out, you have to commit to it. There's going to be a warning LED light on the front of it and a very audible beeping that's going to increase in intensity and frequency, as closer you get to the explosion. The C4 will stick to basically all surfaces, including vehicles. However, it will not stick to any player models. And the effective damage radius for this is going to be about 25 meters, and it being lethal as far as that is concerned is about 15 meters. So you have to be a little bit closer to it, but still, it's nothing to play around with. And they say as well, the shockwave emitted from the explosion is so powerful that it damages all enemies within its radius, even if they're behind cover. And because the C4 is very weighty, you can't throw it that far, and you really can't hold that many as well. It's going to be an extremely heavy item, maybe one of the heaviest in the entire game. So that's in essence how the C4 is going to work, and I like this idea, but I'm not so sure if it should just be like an automatic thing, right? I think the C4 would be more interesting if it were manually controlled, but maybe this will see some reworks in the future, but right now this is going to be how the C4 is implemented into the game. It's going to be something pretty serious. Now, also, another really interesting change coming to an item we've had in the game previously, but has not really seen that much effectiveness or use is the spike trap. And because this was one of my problems with it, is I felt as if you wanted to bridge camp or cut off some real choke point that vehicles actually have to use, the spike traps were just a little bit too small. You have to have like 2 or 3 to even cover a realistic amount of ground. But they've fixed this in this patch, and they're going to be increasing the spike trap length by about 50%. Nothing else about these spike traps have changed in terms of their, technicalities or their damage or anything like that, but they're just going to be a longer item now, so that's pretty cool. Vikendi is getting a very, very small rework as well. They're going to be increasing DMR spawns on that map, which again shouldn't really be controversial. It sort of happened to Vikendi in the past where it just became a sniper wasteland after, there was basically a lot of uproar about there being no sniper rifles or DMRs in the whole map. So they've increased them very slightly. I'm not sure what that's going to translate over to in terms of how it's going to play, but that's something to keep in mind. Now, there was an update next that was canceled, but is now being reintroduced into the game. This is the follow parachute feature. Now, I remember they made a video about this quite a long time ago, but there was a lot of technical issues with it, so it didn't actually get implemented into the game. But this is essentially going to make it a lot easier for squads to follow each other and land together. This is one of those things that I believe was, heavily inspired by Apex Legends, as they did it really well in there. It's a good feature in my opinion because, again, it is optional. You don't have to follow your teammates or anybody, but maybe you're new to the game or you have a buddy that's new to the game that you're playing with and they're not very good at landing. You can essentially bring them along with you, and it's going to be a lot smoother for everyone involved. But this is now finally getting added after was a cut update. And speaking of cut updates, talking about, I believe, one of my previous videos about the gas can change that's coming, where you can essentially pour out fuel on the ground and then light it, and it'll, design a particular pattern of whatever you dump it in. And so that has actually been delayed and canceled as well due to technical issues, and I'm not sure what they're doing about this one yet. You may have wondered why I talked about that in a video and told you it was coming, but it's not been added. Basically, again, some technical issues have been found with that update, and it's not been added in. So I imagine they've got to rework this. I don't know how long it's going to take to get implemented, but it is no longer with us. We'll see what happens with that, and I'll keep you guys updated. But there's also been a new addition to Vikendi as well. Speaking of the trains, there are now bigger lines for, existing ones. And then there's also been some new lines added. And it's basically interwebbed through the whole map now. So it's a lot more viable to use. There's going to be stations and signals that will now indicate when a train is arriving. So just essentially improvements on the concept of the train that we already saw in the beginning in the first iteration of Vikendi. It seems like they're really wanting to make the train system an integral part of how you get around the map, because it's like it's no longer really focused on the Vikendi vehicles rather than just the train itself. But that's an interesting concept you guys are going to have to take a look at. There's also quite a few changes coming to the ranked mode, and I'm going to save that for an entirely separate video because ranked mode is pretty messy at the moment, and there's honestly kind of a lot to talk about that. So I'm going to save that for another video that should be coming probably sometime this week. But there's also been some updates to performance where some FPS and stuttering issues should be worked out now. And of course, as is with every update and patch note, there is an absolute load of bug fixes. And so if you're interested in checking those out, I'm going to leave the link to the full patch notes again in the description for those of you who are interested. But these are the main topics and the big stuff that's going to be happening. The C4 edition and the vehicle rework are actually going to change the game quite a bit. And I also think that the C4 is not done being tweaked. Again, I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made to the C4, you know, just simply by reading the patch notes. I feel like there's some reworks that would help it, but we're going to see how it plays out when it gets implemented into the game. And again, this is going to be on the test server, I believe, on June 10th, and then the live server on the 17th. So we've got roughly 2 weeks, give or take, before this gets added to everybody, but this is just to be one step ahead of the curve. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think about it down below in the comment section. If you did enjoy the video, I would really appreciate a like rating. It is completely free. Subscribe if you're brand new, of course, before you go. And also, if you want to go follow me over on Twitch, where I stream almost every day, links down below in the description. But once again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all on the next stream or the next video. Have a good one, and peace out.